100%. Anyway, hey guys, it's me. I know it's been a while, and I know this doesn't really look like anything interesting. This is what I've been doing with school. Most people really don't care about school. Most people, quite frankly, hate school. But I thought I'd let you see what I'm learning, see, so you guys see what the fuck I'm going through. This school, sorry about all the background noises. This school grades on a whack ass grading system, and it's quite frankly ridiculous. The only thing nice about it is they gave me a MacBook to use, and I've been using it up to this point, but I wanted to record this one day session thing and show you guys what I'm going through. Maybe I'll record more. So, yeah. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So we're on American history, complete lesson. New immigrants arrive. Jesus, I can't read for shit. Um, the United States is often referred to as a melting pot. Sorry. Thank you, Outlook. The United States is often referred to as a melting pot of different cultures, ethnicities, and traditions. We are truly a unique country. I cannot English today, and I don't know fucking why. Um, as more and more immigrants were going to arrive from other countries seeking the promise of a better life, different cultures interacted for the first time. But before they could settle in, they had to make it through admittance. The fear of whether or not they would be admitted was a big worry for many incoming immigrants. In fact, in fact, when they when they arrived, many were subject to tests and observations. Jesus, I cannot read. Take a look at the legend below. This was a series of symbols that were used to classify people at immigration. See if you can define what they stood for. I know X is possible mental derangement. H is heart. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure. Please note, in each lesson, the introduction section will have an optional activity that will introduce you to the lesson in a fun way. Bullshit. At the end of quarter 2 in part 8, you will have an introduction assignment activity where you can pick and choose a section of these fun activities to complete. A selection, sorry, not a section, a selection of these fun activities to complete. If you see a particular lesson you like, please complete it while reading the lesson. Alright, let's. Sorry about that, I had to get some water. This glass was full when I came up the steps. Essential questions. How did immigration work towards diversifying the American nation, and is this still present today? And which group of immigrants faced the biggest challenge in the United States, and why? You probably didn't hear that. I'm sorry. How did immigration work towards diversifying the American nation, and is this still present today? And which group of immigrants faced the biggest challenges? Sorry, I was checking my mic to see if it was on. The biggest challenges in the United States, and why? Um, Much better. My head was sweating. Prior knowledge. As you begin this lesson, reflect back on the earlier changes from an agricultural society to that of an industrial society. In the in the early years In the early years, there was no regulation allowing business leaders like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, or Carnegie, depending on how you pronounce it, to become millionaires from the labor of the working class. As you will see, despite these conditions, millions of immigrants from other countries will seek better lives in America. America! Yeah! Um, lesson, lesson. Overview. This lesson will discuss the factors that encourage millions of men, women, and children to migrate to America from Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. From Europe, Asia, the Caribbean, and Mexico. It will relate their experiences upon arrival, as well as the main restrictions they were met with once here. Explanation. Lesson information. Please read the following in addition to this lesson. Chapter 7, Section 1, pages 254 to 259. That's 5 pages. The book is downstairs. I will read it later. Introduction. What if your whole family decided to pack all their belongings and move to a far and distant country? One where you did not speak the language. What emotions would you experience? Well, I'd be freaking pissed, depending on the country. If my family packed everything up and moved to Ireland, I wouldn't be mad. If my family packed everything up and moved to to England, I wouldn't be mad. If my family packed up everything and went and moved to Italy, I wouldn't be mad because I want to visit. I want to live in all three of those places. Fuck. I want to live in Vancouver, British Columbia. I want to be as far away from my family as possible, and that means the West Coast and Canada. Hell, I don't want to live in Alaska. Eh, no thank you. Um, distant countries. These uncertainties were exactly what the millions of immigrants felt when they made the decision to come to the United States. That would be here when they arrived. What would be here when they arrived? How would they be treated? Let's find out. Give me a second. I gotta go blow my nose. Between the new immigrant, I can't. Oh, none of you could see that. Oh, never mind. Never mind. I can't. The new immigrants between 1870 and 1920, there would be approximately 20 million Europeans that would arrive in the United States. Some of these immigrants were seeking a better life, some were escaping a worse one. Whether it was famine, land shortages, or religious or political persecution, many chose to leave what they knew to come to America. Some would be known as birds of passage, never intending to stay, to temporary earn money to send back to their families before I can't read it no more. Before 1890, most immigrants came from countries in the western and northern Europe. Came from countries in Western and Northern Europe. But after that time, more immigrants came from southern and eastern Europe, and they were considered less desirable. These immigrants did not speak English and were often discriminated against by families that had immigrated years ago before, or years before, whatever. Take a look at the changing pattern of immigration below. What what is the most striking information you see? What was the greatest number of immigrants? Where did the largest of Irish settle? Now, in the comment section down below, what I want you guys to do is point out the differences. Or, alright, never mind. It said, see the differences. Jesus Christ, people! They could bring whatever they could carry. Hell, I'd have my family pack a giant chest full of gold and all that, and I'd have all couple of the couple of us carry it. We can all technically carry it, so we can technically bring it. On the western coast, a similar explosion of immigrants from Asia were arriving, but in much smaller numbers. Between 1851 and 1883, about 300,000 Chinese arrived, seeking fortunes in gold. They wouldn't find the gold, but they did find grueling, dangerous labor on the railroads of America. Now this is a video, and I'm gonna make you guys watch it.
The steamships would dock right out there by the Verrazano Narrows, and ferries would leave here, go to the steamships, and load the immigrants on the ferries and bring them over here. That was their trip to Ellis Island. The first sight in America would have been the Statue of Liberty. That's what they were waiting to see.
Then all of a sudden, we heard a big commotion. And everybody started yelling, they see the lady, the Statue of Liberty. And we all ran upstairs, and everybody started screaming and crying. You were kissing each other. People that you didn't even know before. Everybody was so excited that you see America, and you see the lady with her hand up.
The original title of that work of art that she is Liberty Enlightening the World. That's why she's eternally leaving us with her back to America. She's going off to bring life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to the rest of the world. After Ellis Island was established, though, she became not a symbol.
I just wanted to make sure I was recording because I couldn't remember if I hit the unpause button or not.
Of liberty going off from America, but a symbol of liberty welcoming people to America. So Ellis Island actually changed the meaning of that statue.
And when we saw Miss Liberty, I can't tell you the feeling that we had. We were so happy, and we started to sing. And I'm going to translate that song in English. In America, life is golden. In America, the flowers are more beautiful. In America, the world is much better. And that's where I'm longing to be, my dear.
The steamships were too big to dock here, but the ferries would load up with the immigrants at the steamships, bring them over here, and they'd deboard right there, just as people are doing right now.
The boat was out in the harbor there, and we could see Ellis Island, and it looked beautiful.
That is a beautiful
the
island.
Lawns, I could see the lawns today were green and manicured perfectly. We were a small group in comparison with a large number of other people all over the sidewalks, in line, in preparations for going up to the clinic for examination. And the noise and the languages were absolutely incomprehensible. That scared me more than anything else.
The moment they got off the boat carrying their bags, they were allowed to bring with them everything they could carry. They'd be finding themselves standing in front of a building that looked quite like a castle. So they'd be waiting right in front of the doors with their bags, ready to enter that building and enter the process.
I'm going to pause this. So what happened once they arrived? In the next section, you will see the inspection process that immigrants needed to pass in order to enter the United States formally. What are your thoughts on this process? What fears do you think the immigrants had upon arriving to this new island? Let's see. Sorry about that. I can't get through a video without yawning. I don't know why.
The moment they put their bags down, they were asked to go upstairs. And while going upstairs, that's when they received their medical inspection. They were watched by the doctors with a full 360 degrees. Half of the doctors were downstairs at the first step, the other half were upstairs at the last step, leaning over the railings, watching them walk upstairs. And in doing that, they could give them a full body inspection in the course of, say, 6 seconds upon arrival. After that initial 6-second exam, they would take a button hook, lift up the eyelid, and inspect the eyeballs for signs of trachoma. We call it pink eye. We've got a nickname for it now because it's so simple and easy to deal with. But back in 1900, it's incurable. And if you have trachoma in your inspection at Ellis Island, you're almost sure to be sent back where you came from.
They just looked in your eyes, you know, they folded the eyelids back. I don't remember that it was too bad. I figured it was a sensible thing probably to do.
In the course of, on average, a minute or less, everything was given a glance, and in that glance they could examine you for, as the doctors bragged, 60 different medical conditions. 20% though got...
Holy shit. Holy shit, 60 different things that can go wrong with you. Oh my god.
The doctor's special attention, got noticed, and were literally marked with chalk on the sleeves of their coats, marked with P for pulmonary, LL if their left leg was dragging a bit, the all-purpose H for heart, maybe even an X with a circle around it. Possible mental derangement. Anything serious, and you go to the hospital.
We were standing in line for the doctor. The doctor looked at the nails and the eyes, the mouth, ear, and then teeth. And one after another we went. And when I was through that, I was very happy.
We were healthy looking. You know, we all had nice rosy cheeks. We were lucky. There were many that were sent back. And my sister said some of them were jumping off the boats because they were told to go back. We were the lucky ones.
Only 20% of everyone who ever came up the stairs had to actually go to the hospital. 80%, all they needed was a look in their eyes, a walk up the stairs, and they simply proceeded across the room to their legal inspection.
So what happened when they were detained? Hmm. Let's see.
Up on the third floor, right over the Great Hall, were the two dormitories. One side for men, the other side for women and children. There'd be a sink, there'd be a drain, there'd be a bathroom. And you would sleep on a mat on a cot with a blanket, seeming like an endless series of cots, one after another. On average, most people who had to stay overnight only stayed one night, for a medical reason or a legal reason.
We were put into a dormitory, double bunk beds. Then my mother and I slept in one bed in the lower bunk because all my mother had with her was her pocketbook, and whatever money she had was in there. So we slept together, and she had the pocketbook between us and her arms wrapped around me, and we didn't move all night long.
The time that I spent on Ellis Island seemed like the longest waiting period for me because of the regiment. And naturally, there had to be a regiment. It was no way that they could handle that many people. And you had no communication with the other people that were there because everybody was so full of their own fright. But I'm even glad for having been on Ellis Island, believe it or not, because if I didn't have that as a measuring stick, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did with my life.
And that's it. It was a very nice video. It was 9 minutes long. Alright. I'm gonna get to the end of this chapter, and then, or the end of this thing. I'm gonna end the video. Because we're at 22 minutes now. That's not all. Between 1880 and 1920, about 260,000 immigrants would have. There we go. That's not all, but from 1880 to 1920, 260,000 immigrants would arrive from the eastern and southern United States from Japan, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and other islands in the West Indies. Job scarcity, as well as the industrial boom, drew many individuals to leave all that they knew to seek a better life. But their dreams were met, or were they? But would their dreams be met, or would they doomed to disaster? Who knows? Life in the new land. Knife in the knife in the new land. Life in the new land. Getting to America was often the most difficult part. Almost all immigrants traveled using steamship technology, and the journey across the Atlantic Ocean took about 1 week. And for those crossing the Pacific from Asia, it was about 3 weeks. Not being able to afford much, they traveled in steerage, and were rarely allowed on deck. Crowded together in the gloom underneath the ship decks, the whole time many were feared whether or not they would be allowed in, having to pass inspection upon their arrival. Sorry. For those arriving from Jesus Christ. I'm gonna edit there, so For those for those arriving from the East Coast, many arrived through the doors of Ellis Island, the inspection station in New York Harbor. Not wanting to bring in illnesses, criminals, and other undesirable individuals, each immigrant was inspected at the immigration station. On the West Coast, immigrants gained admission through Angel Island. Angel Island, nice. Um, watch following. Watch the following video of the inspection process that these immigrants were subject to upon their arrival. I believe we've already just done that with that. You probably can't see my mouse with the video. Once admitted, the challenges kept coming. They then had to find a place to live, a job, and how to survive in a land where they did not speak the language. Often, this led to many immigrants settling in ethnic communities that practiced their religions and spoke their language. Is Immigrants are restricted. Many native-born Americans thought of their country as a melting pot, a mixture of people or different cultures and races that would blend together by abandoning their native languages and customs in search of the American identity. But many of these immigrants had strong nationalistic feelings towards their cultural identities, and did not want to give them up. This would lead to a rise of nativism, or overt favoritism toward native-born Americans. Nativism did not nativists did not object to the immigrants from what they considered the right countries, such as those from Britain and Germany, but those from wrong countries became targets of the Immigration Restriction League, who would eventually influence government to pass a bill requiring a literacy test for immigrants. Those that could not read 40 words in English would be refused entry. Oh, God. I understand they want them to be able to speak the language, but seriously? Um, there was also a high rise in anti-Asian sentiment, particularly on the West Coast. The Chinese were forced to accept lower wages, and while the economy was healthy, it did not bother many. But when the Depression of 1873 hit, jobs became scarce and the Chinese became a target, leading to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which banned entry to all Chinese except students, teachers, merchants, tourists, and government officials. In fact, in 10 years, when the Chinese Exclusion Act was to be voted on again, it was passed for an additional 10 years. Check out the poster below, which encouraged America to come out and protest against Chinese immigrants. Chinese? No, no, no. Come to the 10th and 8th Streets at 7:30 Monday evening and express your opinion on the Chinese question. Shall we have Chinese? No, no, no. Meant courtesy at Washington State Historical Society, Tacoma. July 23rd, 1892. Right? Yeah. Fear and resentment of the Chinese immigrants, also, as well as the Japanese, showed that while the doorways were open to immigrants, they wouldn't always be so, and it would not be easy. All right. I will be recording my next couple lessons for today, but I need to take a break, get some water, let my throat rest, and I need to edit this video. And I need to edit this video together and all that. And I thank you very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you, and bye bye.